So you have this big idea and you want to start a company. For a lot of people, it's all fun. It's all games. You want to get the right ping pong table. You argue about the color of the office. You want the coolest view. Where are you going to get your furniture? Those things, while they might be slightly important, are really not important. You need to properly start your company because you don't want to be sitting at a table 3 years later with somebody on the other side of the table willing to buy your company, but they're finding all these holes in the administrative side of your company. So if that's not your deal, if you're not a person who wants to figure out how to start your business on the admin side, find somebody who's going to help you do it. The first thing that you need to do is create an entity, whether that's an LLC or one of the many corps that we have now. We have S Corps, C Corps, B Corps, whatever those corporations are, you need to have an entity. Sole proprietorship, basically a law professor once told me, sole proprietorship is a recipe for malpractice. If you just run your company out of your basic bank account and don't separate it from you personally, you are in for a world of hurt. So don't do it. There are lots of different ways. You can consult an attorney, you can use online resources, you can do it yourself. There's many, many ways to do it. The LLC has made it very, very simple for people to create a proper entity to run a business. So that's the first thing that you need to do. Okay, the next thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you have contracts. And nobody loves going to an attorney and spending money, but there's lots of different ways of making sure that you have a contract. And there's lots of great services out there, but the bottom line is you need those contracts. You need contracts with everybody that you're doing business with. So whether these are contracts for somebody that you're hiring to do work for you, like a website developer, or if they're agreements, which are in essence contracts, but if they're agreements for your employees, if they're agreements for your advisory board, you need to make sure that you have all these pieces of paper that somebody who's more knowledgeable than you, if you've never started a business before, will actually make sure that you are protecting your company. And nobody likes to go into business thinking, okay, I've got to put everything down on paper and I've got to prepare for the worst, but you actually do. And one of the key pieces for a startup is that you need to make sure at the end that you own everything, because there are lots of horror stories of companies that have either raised funds or gone to exit only to find out that they didn't own the code that was written by the student intern that they hired, that they didn't ever get that student to assign or basically sign over the intellectual property or ownership of that code. There's reams of examples of people who have raised money and they didn't own the intellectual property, they didn't own the rights to things. So you need to make sure that you have an attorney or a knowledgeable professional looking at all your contracts to make sure that you own everything. So you can still get that ping pong table, but just make sure that you have had a professional look at the lease or the contract for your offices and everything else. Getting started on the right track in terms of getting everything all lined up with the right paperwork is key to properly start your company.